All right, guys, Gary over at Stripwell. Another day, another stripping project. Just wanted to show you QCS on this black McCobb desk. This is the bottom of the top of the desk here, so we'll flip that later and do the other side. And then there's the two small legs that go on the cabinet there, and then the two long legs that thread in here and here. And we're going to strip all of this using QCS and show you how it works. It's a beautiful day outside, so we're going to go ahead and wet this, let it sit, let it work, and get started. So you're going to grab your QCS and you're just going to start to mist everything. And you can also, people have asked if you can apply QCS using like a rag or like a brush or anything like that, like normal strip. You can apply it however you want. We just find that spraying it's just so nice and easy. You get a nice even coat over everything. So I like to spray it on, but there are times where if you want to control where it's going, putting it on with a rag or some sort of a pad or a brush might make more sense. But we're going to spray it on because we're outside and get this whole thing coated, this whole piece, and then let it sit and work. All right, guys, I'm going to let this sit now for about 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and then wet it again. The key to QCS really is, I always say, is patience, just letting it work. Don't rush it. And then also keeping it really wet. So being outside, it might want to dry out a little bit more in the sun. I'm not sure exactly. You can already see that the back on it is crazing up a lot, which is a great sign. So we're gonna just let it sit and work, and then come back and wet it again. And I'm gonna be working on other things while I let QCS work for me. And yeah, it should come out nice and clean when it's done. But yeah, give it time, give it patience. Go do other things, and every 15 minutes or so, just kind of give it another light coat, keep it wet and working, and you'll have good luck. So we'll come back and check in a little bit. All right, I'm back with this McCobb desk because I'm impatient. There's still 5 minutes left on the clock, so I've only waited 10 minutes. I'm just going to take my little putty knife here and just give it a little scrape, see how we're doing. I just want to test it. And I wanted to mention too that on these McCobb pieces, just like a lot of furniture, it seems like over the years they would switch finishes. So like we've stripped McCobb pieces before, like the desks particularly, that seem like almost like they have some sort of a conversion varnish on them, and maybe it was a redo at some point. I don't know, but it's a much harder finish. And then sometimes it seems like it's the nitrocellulose lacquer that does come off really easily, which is more of what we would call the vintage finish. So hopefully, you know, again, it'll vary. You'll run into sometimes where it's very difficult to get off. Other times it'll come off very nicely. So we're going to give this a shot. All right, so let me get in here so you can see it. Yeah, so that's nice. It is coming off. Again, this has only been 10 minutes, so you gotta understand I'm breaking my own rule here. You want to be patient, but that's a really good sign. See, all of that, once you're at this level, that is more of where you switch to scrubbing, and that'll clean up the wood beautifully. So your goal is really, when you're stripping something like this, is just to get this heavy top coat off, but you can see it hasn't fully cut through yet. So that's only been 10 minutes, so I just wanted to test it, see where we stand, but so far that's a great sign. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes. I'm just going to give it a scrape now. Oh yeah, see, that's nice. That's what you want. You want it to slide through like butter. You don't want to be fighting it, but that is exactly what you want to see. And what that's doing is getting it right off, right down to that raw wood. And you don't have to worry about getting all the streaks out. That's just a little bit of the pigment. The scrubbing is going to get this perfectly clean, but you can see all that finish just came off like butter. I mean, that's what you want. You don't want to fight the finish off. That's a waste of your time and energy. So you really want to just let it do the work for you. So that's beautiful. That's 15 minutes. I'm going to wet it all again and give it another 10-15 minutes just to kind of really weaken it. But really, I could go after this right now, but I'm just going to let it sit a little longer. But that's exactly what you hope for in a scenario like this. All right, before I go ahead and re-wet this and give it a little more time, I'm just going to show you, here's a piece of, this is just 4.0 steel wool, so this is the finest. The coarseness of the steel wool is not, it's not super vital. I mean, I tend to go a little coarser than this for most finishes, just so it grabs a little bit better. You don't need to go to the super coarse, because sometimes that can kind of scratch woods and scratch the color that you may want to preserve in the wood. So I'm going to take this. I have a bucket here, just an old bucket of some old QCS that's been run off and reused, and I'm just going to show you how nice this is going to clean up now. So you're just going to scrub all the surfaces, and again, I'm doing this barehanded. Look at that. And then you just take your towel you're down to bare wood. Beautiful. Just wanted to mention one other thing. There's just these little things that I think not everyone knows. It's something that I've learned over the years in restoration and restoring furniture, but people don't realize it sometimes. There's two things. A lot of chemicals that you use to strip furniture can stain the wood pretty easily. So this would be a great example that if you were using another product and you were to strip this portion and then keep reapplying the stripper, that it would be very likely you could get some sort of either a chemical stain or a water stain where it would like discolor that area, either darken it or do something. And so when you strip the rest off, you would have this weird shape there. That doesn't happen with QCS, and that's a really big plus that you can sort of start and scrape. And if you have areas where it's still on there and areas where it's not, you don't have to be concerned about that. The other thing I wanted to mention too was that a lot of times I see people using the Saran wrap method, which has become popular. So where you put the paste stripper on, you put Saran wrap down, and then you come back maybe the next day, you know, let it sit overnight or several hours, and then I guarantee you, if you've done that, if you haven't had this happen, it will happen to you at some point, where you pull it off and you get weird stains all over the surface. And it's because where the Saran wrap made full contact and really held the gel in place versus spots where it was kind of maybe a bubble or it wasn't quite flat, you're going to get these variations where the stripper dries, doesn't dry, all this, and you're going to get a strange pattern when you pull that Saran wrap off where there's stains, and that could be either water or, again, chemical burns, which you then have to either grind out or use something like a wood bleach to try to get those out. So you don't need to use Saran wrap with QCS at all. You just wet it and keep it wet, and you can leave it overnight too. Another thing I want to point out is as I'm scraping this area and getting the finish off, what I love is how little waste there is with QCS too. There's not an excessive amount of gel or just, you know, slime all over the piece. This is literally the finish. QCS gets into the finish, sort of soaks in and sort of dissolves it and becomes one with the finish. And when you scrape it off, all you have is this little bit of waste, which you can put into a bucket, and it will take a lot of projects to have any considerable amount of waste. And QCS is biodegradable and safe, so the only thing you have to check with, you know, and be aware of with your local area is how to get rid of like the paint that you're removing or the finish that you're removing. That's the only thing that we have no control over. So but QCS itself is completely safe. Alright guys, just wanted to show you where we're at with this. I just scraped everything off of this the body of the desk, and I'm now I did scrub it and wiped off the residue, but there's still some grime on there because I didn't go after it you know, super particularly. I'm using these blue shop towels. These work really good. They're a little thicker than regular paper towels, and they don't leave a lot of lint behind. They work really well for this. You could also use a regular towel, but I'm going to go in here now and just I recoated it with some fresh QCS, and all I'm going to do now is just go in and wipe and try to clean up the surface really nicely so that I can let it dry and there won't be any residue on the surface. So I'm going to go around, wipe it down. I already coated it, so I'm just going to use some fresh QCS with some towels, wipe it down, and be done with this. All right guys, just here's the update. This side's half is done here. This side I'm about to do. Just wanted to show you how clean it can come out. And what I wanted to mention too, one of the things I really like is from the factory you have these like blade marks, which again, most people don't care much about little things like that. That's just like factory, you know, that's just the woodworking, so that's not a big deal. But in restoration, it's awesome when you can preserve some of that, so like that will peek through the finish when you redo it. So my goal right now is I'm taking the time and I'm stripping this really, really clean so that in the end the sanding is just a really, really light sanding and right to finishing. So you're going to preserve all these kind of chatter marks that were from the factory, from the planer that this top went through, versus going at this with a grinder where you lose all that. And again, some people don't care, but that's where you really start to convince people that it's original when you restore it versus making it obviously something that's been refinished and handled by someone. Just before I do the unveil of the final product here, I just wanted to show you one more time. A lot of times I get asked what to do sort of for scrubbing, and people will go at, you know, this with dry steel wool, and I recommend not doing that. So I just have a bucket here of old stripper or old QCS, and I do it wet. So what I do is I dip it and I scrub wet, and you can see it just washes away all of the residue and any finish that's still sticking on. So I like to do it this way, and I highly recommend that you do it this way. If you try to scrub it with just dry steel wool or something like that, you're gonna have kind of a hard time. So I would go this route. All done, all clean. I just want to show you really quick. Here are the small legs here, and I just wanted to show you just how clean it comes out. I mean, it is so nice and clean. Very little sanding required now, so I spent a little extra time on just getting it sanded, but you could even see the original turning marks in the legs. You know, at this point it's so smooth you really don't need to sand it, so you can leave a lot of that really subtle detail, but everything came out awesome. The insides of the drawers were preserved, the outside was completely stripped and is nice and clean now, and yeah, it's just ready to go. So excited to have completed this project. But for you McCobb people, QCS is great for restoring McCobb, for stripping it and giving you a great place to start. So thanks for watching, subscribe to our channel, and we'll talk to you soon. More stripping to come.